All right. Well, good evening, everyone. You probably saw some of that behind the scenes stuff just now. Just wanted to make sure that we were proper and ready for you. Thank you for joining us, my neighbors here in North Rosedale Park. I am Council Member President Pro Tem James Tate, representing District 1. As some of you, hopefully many of you know, been really toiling away at trying to identify how to continue to improve the city of Detroit, District 1, and neighborhood by neighborhood, again, located within District 1. One of the concerns that we have that's citywide, and certainly here in North Rosedale Park, we're not immune to it, is stormwater issues, stormwater management. We have heard this throughout the city of Detroit. We felt the pain as well when it comes to the flooding. And so what we're talking about this evening is at least our attempt to address it on a small level and see how we can replicate this potentially throughout North Rosedale in the areas that do not have curbs. And yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. We're talking about curbs. There are a few neighborhoods within North Rosedale Park that do not have curbs currently, and we're looking at identifying ways to find funding to allow for curbs to be implemented in these areas. As we know, again, when it comes to curbs, we're talking about the ability to control the water runoff as well as direct the rainwater onto the side of the streets and into the storm drains that, again, will take that water away from your properties. Hopefully will reduce the erosion as well that we see along Huntington and some of the other streets. What we're talking about today is, again, implementing or installing curbs on 2 blocks on Huntington Street between Vern and West McNichols. Also looking at doing some road repair along the entryway of West McNichols and Huntington, because as you know, it's been eroded tremendously over there. But we didn't want to just do it. Last year, I secured funding, and ironically, here we are knocking on the door. Literally tomorrow, the mayor will be providing his budget address to City Council, and we're going to begin the budget process. Last year, I was able to secure $400,000 to go towards this effort that we're going to be discussing today. But as I mentioned, I think it's always imperative that we get the feedback from the residents to determine if this is exactly what folks want in the neighborhood. Certainly heard it from some, but I know that we have some traditionalists. Again, I'm a long-term neighbor here in North Rosedale, certainly in District 1. So I value everyone's opinion. We want to make sure that everyone feels like they have been heard. Overwhelmingly, we have heard that curbs are desired, but we wanted this opportunity to explain to you what curbs would potentially look like, the time frame upon which it would take for the curbs to potentially be installed, and any other questions, and open up to an opportunity for you all to ask any questions that you have regarding this particular project. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of the way and introduce, allow for the folks who are here on the screen to introduce themselves, and we're going to then turn around and allow for the water department, Ms. Patel, to provide a PowerPoint presentation on the benefits of curb installation as it relates to stormwater management. So, you know, we'll allow everyone to introduce themselves as they come up. So, Ms. Patel, if you don't mind introducing yourself again, and then the floor is yours. And we also have DPW here in addition to water department as well. So bear with me getting through it. This Zoom world is still kind of weird all these years later, but we're going to make it happen tonight. Ms. Patel, the floor is yours, man.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Councilman Pro Tem Tate. Thank you so much for having us this evening. We're glad to be here. As mentioned, my name is Sonali Patel, and I am on the public affairs team at the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department, also known as DWSD. I don't have a formal presentation this evening, but I'll be happy to talk a bit about the possible curb installation and what that impact would look like on capturing stormwater and moving the stormwater from the specific blocks that we're looking at. So at the time of development for North Rosedale Park, at that time, the developer chose not to install catch basins on certain blocks within the neighborhood. There are a few areas throughout the city where we have seen this, typically older neighborhoods where catch basins were not installed and there are no curbs on those blocks. So there are a couple things that happen when there aren't curbs on a block and there aren't any catch basins. Typically, the street was developed or engineered to have rainfall or even snow melt roll from the street and sidewalks and fall towards the berm, which is a grassy area between the street and the sidewalk there. And so the berm, being grass, will hopefully absorb that rainwater or snow melt, and we call that stormwater. Stormwater is rainfall or snow melt, any water that's basically coming from the sky, coming down to the earth. And so at times, though, we're all aware when we have large rain events, which we're starting to see more often, more frequently, more intense rain events, the berms can get overwhelmed, and that stormwater, those rainfalls, have nowhere to go except to flood the street. And so if there isn't a catch basin on the block or in the area for the water to flow to, that can result in street flooding. And unfortunately, at times, it's so bad that residents aren't able to get out of their driveway or pass through the street. And so the one benefit of installing curbs is so that way, when it does rain or there is snow melt, the curb and the street is engineered to guide that rainfall, that storm water, to the nearest catch basin. So the water enters into the catch basin, goes underground into our sewer system. The one benefit I would say, or the biggest benefit of not having curbs and allowing the water to get absorbed into the earth through the grass, is that the water, the storm water, is not entering into the sewer system. We have a combined sewer system in the city. So what that means is during a large rain event, the rainfall, along with all the sewage from all of our homes and businesses, so basically when we flush the toilet or run the laundry machine or the dishwasher, all of that sewage is coming from homes and businesses, and the rainwater is also going into the sewer pipe combining. And so when we have large rain events, our sewer pipes can get overwhelmed, they can reach capacity, and sometimes that can cause street flooding or unfortunately basement backups if there's nowhere for that storm water and sewage to go. And so the more stormwater that we can absorb through the earth, the better. But we understand that can result in street flooding at times. So the benefit of curbs could be to direct that stormwater to a catch basin that would then move the water into the combined sewer system, which goes to our water treatment plants. And so if the curbs were to be installed and catch basins were a part of that package, that would be installed through DPW. And so DPW can speak to that engineering design of installing the catch basins. And then from there, DWC would be responsible for maintaining them like we do throughout the city, which involves cleaning the catch basins to ensure that leaves and debris don't clog them so water can continue to go through the catch basin into the combined sewer system. There is a bit of resident responsibility with the catch basins if they were to be installed, which is that, of course, we always ask that residents, when you're raking up your grass clippings in the spring and the leaves in the fall, that you are also cleaning over the catch basin near or in front of your house, because the largest issue with the catch basins being clogged are the streets or the trees in the neighborhood would shed their leaves and cause those catch basins to get clogged. But of course, we do proactive maintenance by getting those catch basins cleaned when there is any indication of them being clogged. And so that's a bit of the pros and cons to the curb installation. Again, without the curbs, that stormwater is being absorbed in the berms and lawns, which is being avoided from entering the combined storm sewer or combined sewer system. And then if there were curbs installed, that means that the water is able to be directed to the catch basin, avoiding street flooding. So it's a brief overview. Again, DPW would be responsible for installing those catch basins and engineering the road to fit those parameters.
And Ms. Patel, thank you so much. And hopefully you can stick around for any questions that folks may have. This very well may not be a very long meeting today, because I think it's real, very clear on what we're looking to do. But we are making sure that we have, this is going to be recorded just for the folks who are watching right now. It is being recorded. We're going to make sure that it's available for those who were not able to attend this evening. We did, Lynn, who's on the call as well, knocked on every door, dropped flyers on every door within this 2-block area. And so again, I know that everyone was not able to be here this evening, but we absolutely are going to make sure that the video is available for consumption afterwards. Thank you again so much, Mr. Taylor. Like I said, we'll definitely pivot back to you as we move forward. Coming up next, we have DPW. So you heard from Ms. Patel about the benefits of the curbs. Now we're going to have DPW, Mr. Deo Akinyemi, as well as Mr. Stephen Banish, who will talk about the actual process of these curbs and some of the things you're going to have to think about if you, in fact, decide as the community, as a neighbor, as a neighborhood, as a block, if in fact this is what you want to see in your particular stretch of the community. All right, so I'll turn it over to now you two gentlemen. Thanks again for being here. We appreciate you. The floor is yours.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. My name is Dio Akinyemi. I'm the Deputy Director for DPW, and I have three of my colleagues here. We have Rich Doherty, who is our City Engineer. We have Steve Banish, who is our Engineering Services Coordinator. He oversees a lot of people that carry out design and consultant construction project. And of course, we have Ms. Patricia Henderson here. She oversees our street maintenance. Those are the folks that clear snow, they patch potholes, and they resurface residential streets. We have a very important topic here, and we thank the Council President Pro Tem Tate for his advocacy for the community here, and he set aside and he's been leading the effort on how to get curbs into these particular couple blocks, and we've been doing our research and our homework to make sure that we can provide you quality project. So I'm going to turn it over to the city engineer, and he will take you through some of the homework we've done, and we'll leave it to the community to make a decision on how best we should proceed. So Rich, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Dio. Thank you, Councilmember Tate. Appreciate the opportunity to share this information with your neighbors and the community. Steve, do you have the ability to pull up the kind of the street view of Huntington at Vern? All right, we're going to zoom in on the street there, and obviously, when we were asked to assess the viability of doing this project, there's certain things we needed to consider. To one, to see if the funding that was provided would meet the need, and two, if it was possible to do it. And I don't know, Steve, if you can head north just a little bit, I think you'll see that there are in fact catch basins right there on the street. And in this first block of Huntington from Vern up to Grove, there are curbs there. They just aren't very well exposed. So we retained an engineering firm services to help us study this, Manikin Smith Group. They took cores of the pavement that was out there. They surveyed from the back of the sidewalk on either side of the street all the way there to see see if this was feasible for the funding that was available, and if it was a prudent investment for the community to make. Like I said, in this first block, we do have a curb. We do have a rather thick section of asphalt. So we feel that we can mill off or remove the top 3 inches of asphalt and put back, have Patricia and her team put back 1.5 inches, and we'll start to recapture or re-expose the curb that's been buried by all the asphalt, so that we can, in this first block, at least expose the existing curb that's there. And if there is any damaged curb that we see through that process, then we'll have the funding available to replace any damaged curb. So why don't we continue north to the next block, Steve, and we can kind of talk about what we're going to be able to do from Grove up to McNichols. Because another question we had with this process was, okay, if we install curbs, are we going to be creating issues for the residents? Because if the curb is higher than the sidewalk, then we've defeated the purpose of placing the curb out there. The way the street system should function, that from your house, from the front porch of your house, down across your lawn, over the sidewalk, over the berm area, and then over the curb, all the rainwater should flow away from your house towards the street. And if we install a curb that is too high, then we'll run the risk of having water dam up behind it, creating icing problems, ponding problems, etc. So the consultants, when they did the survey, they determined that we could, in fact, in this block, place a curb of 3 to 4 inches high. So again, we're going to mill down 3 inches of asphalt and put back 1.5 inches, and then have these curb face exposed 3 or 4 inches above that new pavement. But for all of you that live on this street, you know that this street is a rather narrow street. It's only 18 to 20 foot wide. So when we install the curb, if you go to park in the street, it will be very tight. And we just want to be able to share that with the community. I don't know, Steve, if we go north a little bit, we'll have an example of a car in the street. There you go. So you can see that when a car is parked in the street, and as long as it's not parked on the grass, there's only maybe 10 feet of space, 10, 11 feet of space to drive around that car to continue north, in this case, along Huntington. So that is going to be, if we do install these curbs, that will be a challenge for the community. And you'll have to tell us, if it's in best interest of the community to have no parking signs posted on the street, or at least on one side of the street. Obviously, if you have this car parked there and a fire truck or a garbage truck needs to get through, it is going to be very narrow. And then on trash pickup day, if you're parked on that side of the street and somebody puts the trash bin out on the other side of the street, you won't even have maybe 8-9 feet of space to get a vehicle through. So I would imagine that you're going to end up placing your trash containers, those Corville containers, up behind the curb on your front lawn, so that there is at least a passable lane to get through. But given the funding that's available, working in partnership with Patricia Henderson in the Street Maintenance Division, we feel we can come through here in this northern block, place the curbs and kind of mirror what's on the block to the south, between Verner and Grove. You'll have a narrow street with curbs that keep the vehicles channeled, keep them on the road, or more likely parked in your driveway to allow cars to be able to pass through here. And at the very northern end, we know that the road has deteriorated to the point that we're going to have to probably rip out all of the pavement there. And fortunately, the council member has set aside sufficient, Councilmember Tate has set aside sufficient funding. So from the alley north, we think we can put in a 24-foot wide road, new concrete curb and gutter, and get and allow cars turning in and out not to be conflicting with each other at the intersection. But that's, based on the analysis we had this engineering consultant do, and given the funding we have available and partnering with our street maintenance division, we feel that we can deliver that to you without too much disruption to the look and character of your street and neighborhood. So I guess I'll stop talking now. Councilman Tate, do you have any questions, or anybody in the
No. Yeah, Mr. Doherty, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about that graphic that's on the screen.
Yeah, that's that graphic will kind of show what it'll look like in the future state after we get done. If you all decide we should move forward with this plan, then this summer we can have the new curb poured. Patricia and her team can come in and we'll mill off the road for her, and she'll put down the new coat of asphalt. And so we'll have a road that'll function, I believe, how you would like it to function, where the cars stay kind of between the two lines there and don't creep onto your front lawns and that. And like I said, given the fact that the pavement is only 18 to 20 foot wide, if you and your neighbors decide to park in front of your house at the same time, you'd be able to walk between the two cars. So it's going to require the cooperation of the neighbors to make sure that the vehicles are staggered, or we may have to place signage to just reinforce that maybe only one side of the street should be parked on.
All right, anything else? And Ms. Henderson, thank you as well for being here. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, or you want to just go into Q&A. Okay. Well, so I know it was mentioned earlier, and then I'm going to open up. So I know we got at least one hand that's raised. I know we've talked about how tight it very well may be. It may feel tighter because you won't be able to, it wouldn't be wise, certainly it's not wise now, but it'd be more of a challenge to even park on the lawns, partially with the curbs in place. What does that cost look like if we were talking to expand the street? I mean, I know that's the question that would come to my mind if I'm, on that block. I will say right now, we have not secured those dollars, and these dollars that we have right now, the 400,000, the way that the budget works, you have to expend it within that particular budget year. The fiscal year ends June 30th, starts July 1st. So we have to spend these dollars, and you cannot use one pot of money from one year and put it on top of a pot of money the following year. You have to utilize those dollars. So this is $400,000 that was secured last year to go towards this particular project. How much does this cost? Because I've heard some numbers, possibly even doubling the cost of the project, or even exceeding that, if the thought were to expand the street and include the curbs. Can someone talk to us a little bit about that? Let the public know, because we want to be fully transparent.
Yeah, we had explored the option of potentially widening both blocks of the road to a 24 foot or even a standard residential street width of 30 foot. 30 foot, obviously that would, the curbs would get very close to those trees you see in the photo. That, the shot that's there, we'd be taking up 6 foot of each person's front yard area between the sidewalk and the curb. So yeah, that berm area would shrink quite a bit. It is fairly wide, so you'd still have looks like 10 foot of grassy berm area between the sidewalk and curb. But the cost to go to a 24 foot wide road, where you'd only still be able to park on one side of the street, that would probably, instead of 400,000, you're probably talking, where our estimate is 1.2 million to go to the standard residential 30-foot wide where people can park on both sides of the street. You'd still have 16-foot lane in the middle to drive through. That gets you up to 1.6 million. And of course, we'd have to go through a full design for that. So we'd be hard pressed to get it into this construction season. But if we were, so those are the challenges that we would have going that route. It is a significant expense. Just like I said, 2 blocks, we're talking 1.6 million to reconstruct the road and put it in at the standard 30-foot residential widths.
Got it. Thank you for that. And then also we talked about, it would more than likely be wise to only have parking on one side of the street, knowing that it's going to be a little bit more challenging, certainly more challenging, and not advised at all to park partially on the grass. And we talked about you would want the side of the street that's open to be the side that has the fire hydrants. Is that correct?
Yeah, obviously you wouldn't want to put all the parked cars and have them end up blocking fire hydrants, and that police or the fire department would definitely want free access to the hydrant side of the street. So parking in this case, I believe, would be on the west side of the street.
Okay. And then last question before we open up to the hands that I see raised is what does the time frame look like? So not when we know that the project has to start in order to absorb these dollars prior to the new fiscal year, July 1st. So we know that, but in terms of the duration of the project, when you first start, digging in the ground to when you finally, as we say, cut the ribbon, what does that time frame look like, the duration?
For this extensive of curb work, we're probably talking 2-3 weeks of disturbance. Come through and put the curb on one side, let it cure, pour the curb on the other side, let it cure, and then mill out the asphalt in the middle and let Patricia, then we have to reset the catch basins to the proper elevation and let Patricia come in with the street maintenance team and put the fresh asphalt down. So yeah, it'd be 3-4 week disturbance. Normally when we're paving a street, just doing our standard work, we're in and out of there in a week or 2, but something this extensive, I would admit, we're going to want that new curb to get cured firm. This needs to strengthen to its full strength before we have those machines pushing asphalt against it.
Okay. And then for those folks who, I've seen it and actually heard that was something that was desired to place the Corville containers or trash containers on your lawn. Is that a violation? Will someone receive a ticket for doing that?
I don't believe so. I think the truck, and Dial may be able to speak to this a little better than I could, but I believe the truck with its arm could pick it up off the front lawn. As long as it's at the face, right at the curb, it should be able to reach and pick up the container and dispose of the trash and set it back there. It's just like I said, if you're parked on one side, your vehicle's, maybe 7-8 feet wide. You put this Corville container that's 2 or 3 foot wide, that you don't even have a passable lane there if it's on the opposite side of the street. So I think it's going to kind of be a necessity to set it up on the front lawns.
Okay. I just try to anticipate the questions that I know I would have if I lived on the block myself. All right, so we'll now go to hands that are raised. Jai, I will give you the opportunity to call on the folks who have their hands raised.
The first individual with their hand raised was M.D. Crawford.
M.D. Crawford, thank you for joining us this evening.
Yes, I'm here. My name is Marlo Crawford. Live on Lancashire, but I often travel down Huntington to get to the office. My question is, with the curbs, I did see the image that it looks like the curb is going to be extended all the way to West McNichols, the commercial area there. So there's never been curbs at the commercial level there. So I just want to make sure that what I saw is going to happen, that this will be the first time that the curbs will go all the way to West McNichols, which includes on Huntington, the commercial side.
Yes. Yeah, that
Okay.
would be our intent.
Okay, thank you very much.
You, Jai, we have another hand?
We do. Our next question comes from Miss Deborah Bradley.
Ms. Bradley, thank you for joining us. The floor is
Yes,
yours.
good evening. Good evening.
No, you didn't ask my question.
I appreciate the input that you're allowing us to have. I live in the corner house on Huntington and Grove. And I see how the curb could exist down the main street. But do you have any visual as to how it would go around at the end of the block? Like in front of my house?
Yeah,
How
we
that
would,
would go?
yeah, we would, I think you could see it on the south side of Grove and Huntington. That radius like that would be how we would construct. So it would
Okay, yeah. I'm
wrap around
across
the
the street from
radius.
you.
Yep.
Mhm. Okay, so it would be similar to that.
Yep.
Okay. And the other thing, there were new curbs put down on Huntington between Vern and Florence, maybe within the last 2 years. And they did the curbs like you showed on some of the houses, but I don't think it was the whole block. I'm not sure right offhand.
Yeah, I believe that was related to a DWSD project where
Yeah.
they replaced a section of water main,
Right.
and when they
Are
did
there
that
any-
work, they put back the new curb.
Yeah, were there any problems with parking? Did they experience or say anything about the new parking or the size of the street as a result of the curbs? I do drive down there. A lot of times there's there's a truck on both sides of the street. I do manage to get through, but I'm not driving a really big car.
I've certainly haven't heard of any complaints. Obviously, like I said, it's just given the width of the pavement, that is going to be a reality that the community is going to be faced with. Steve, I don't know if you want to spin around to kind of see that section, new curb. This is it. You're at, this is going south to Vern.
Yeah, and I'll say that,
Yep.
Ms. Bradley, we have not received any.
That's a new curb there,
Yeah, water department.
left side. Mhm.
Yeah, Ms. Bradley, I will say that we as an office have not received any complaints, because typically what would happen is, folks would get frustrated and start asking for some enforcement or some solution. So we have not in our office received any. That's not to say that there has not been any challenges, of course,
True.
but we have not received any in our office.
Well, that's good to know.
Well, before you go though, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts? I mean, you live on the block. You're not just someone passing through. That's important as well, just like myself. And it's in my neighborhood, so I care. But by it being on your block, hearing that it may feel tighter, also knowing that we very well may request for only one side of the street for parking only to alleviate any of these issues. As you see, there's the water fire hydrant right there, so it'll be on that side of the street where would not be allowed. How do you feel about this so far?
The majority of the people on my block park in their driveway or in their garage. So we don't have a lot of vehicles sitting on the street. There could be events from time to time that do have a lot of cars, but that's very infrequent. So I think it would be a good thing to alleviate those times to have parking on one side of the street.
Okay. And let me ask you how, and I'm always looking for that input. How would you believe, what do you believe would be the best way to get that feedback from the residents who live on the two blocks? that are in the impact area. I mean, we can always do another Zoom, but right now we have about 4 people outside of all of us from the city. And we want to make sure that people are aware, but then also that there's buy-in from the majority of the folks. We've heard it, but really to get some kind of true firm affirmation that this is what the neighbors want, because this will possibly change the way that they operate. So what do you think would be the best way to get the feedback from
I
them?
think knocking on doors
Okay.
and visibly speaking to someone. I do appreciate the flyer, but not everybody does. And I'm a block club captain. It is so hard to get responses from people. Somehow we've got to change that, going in your garage and going in the side door, back door, and not seeing your neighbors or talking to your neighbors. I don't know how to do it. I've struggled with it, but I think door to door would be a good way to start.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. And
do you all have active block club meetings that we might be able to activate, or?
We had one last night. Clarinda should be, Miss Webb, I think, is on there.
Okay.
She's on the call. But
Okay.
I did have one other question.
Yes,
down
ma'am.
at the 6 Mile and Huntington area, will you be doing anything with the driveway, the part and behind it? See, on one side there's concrete all the way through the outer drive, because I walk my dog over there. So it's concreted, but across the street where the offices are, it's not. Yeah. Will you be doing anything with that?
We'll likely install an approach for the alley there.
Okay.
Through the sidewalk, yeah.
Okay. That'll be good. I think the neighbor on the first house will really appreciate that.
Mm.
But when you go across the street, it's all the way across. I mean, it's all the way through. Yeah, all the way through.
And if you have if there's anyone else that you would like to, if they have any additional questions, because we're definitely going to reach out and do more engagement. Like that person who's parking on the burn, that's a violation right there.
Yes.
You can't do that. What we're doing is trying to reduce that for certain. But
I know.
if you don't mind, by all means, you can provide them my contact number. It should have been on the flyer as well.
It is.
Okay. All right. Well, have them give us a call, because we want to hear their opinions about it. And we're going to also share this video afterwards to make sure that folks get an opportunity to see what they don't see today.
Yeah, this is Marlo Crawford. So to talk about that commercial area, I'm the owner of the building over there. And I do have one point where the video was showing that one side does not have a berm. And what happens is some of my tenants get tickets, and I get them waived because when you look at the curb indicates at the exact corner of 6 Mile, West McNichols and Huntington, on the exact corner there's a short curb, which shows that means they can park on the side of the building. Yeah, that little spot right there. So so that means what happens is, because it's so short, a lot of my tenants get a ticket when they park in the gravel area, because the police indicate, those giving out the tickets indicate, no, that's all because the corner, when you look at the commercial, it comes out much further in the street than what you're looking at right there. It comes much further in the street, and that's what they're gauging it by.
That erosion, basically.
Yeah, so
if we park within 30 feet of the corner, you're not allowed to park within 30 feet of the corner, which they would measure from the stop sign back, just so when cars turning the radius don't plow right into the parked car. That's also a part of the vehicle code.
Excuse me. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Billy Crawford. My husband's talking, but I definitely want to give my perspective on the corner where our building is and some of the issues that, as I listen to the engineer, I want to bring up because they need to be also considered as you make that improvement, the things you're talking about doing. So if I can have my turn now, or do you want me to wait?
No, so let's first make sure that Ms. Bradley had her question because I know she was speaking.
I'm-
No worries, no worries. We want to make sure everyone has their chance. Ms. Bradley, do you have all your questions
I'm
responded to?
finished. I appreciate the time you gave me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, Ms. Crawford, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. I do agree with Miss Bradley about the alley. I don't know how that happened, but to the east at 6 and the alley, it's all concrete tile to drive. To the west, they went halfway to Edinburgh to where my building and the next building meet, and they did concrete, and then they didn't come down the alley with the concrete. So when the city was doing all the rain and sewage issues here, all these potholes you see, that was left. And then I asked him, well, are you going to put gravel in? What are you going to do? And it was very superficial.
Did we lose you, Miss Crawford? Are you still there?
Ms. Crawford still shows unmuted.
Ms. Crawford, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we lost
Okay,
you.
I'm
though for a
sorry.
second.
I know it's on mine is unstable, so I'm at my husband's computer. So this area that you see is constantly being excessively traveled, even for the people who frequent the building to my east. For some reason, that is the go through. So this area, if it's not properly aproned, I really would love to see they continue the concrete all the way down the alley. I think it's kind of the right thing to do because it's done on both sides. But at least if they can't put in the budget, if they would apron that and also make a sidewalk across, that would give some continuity and also better stability to that area. On the berm area, the berm has been totally eroded because last year there was a situation where water ran for at least 8 months off of 6 Mile at the corner. They could not stop the water from running. So it was soaked, and I think that it heaved a lot of stuff. It oversaturated, and now the berm, which we maintain it with a lawn service. There is really nothing to maintain now because it's just wrecked. And when you talk about water runoff, about the sidewalk and how everything is supposed to naturally move from the building, the trees, the city has not maintained those trees. They're hanging over my building. My sidewalk is busted up, is heaved. The water now runs back on my building. So it's a lot of engineering issues right here as we look right there on that corner from 6 to the alleyway that I would really appreciate more consideration and more effort to make sure that is proper again, because it right now is really not feasible. And people park there all the time. They bring trucks at night. They park large wheeler trucks. Of course, when they had to do construction, they park there because there's a fire hydrant across the street. And it's a very ugly it's also a very dangerous corner. As the engineer said, it has eroded to the point you're down to one lane. And when you try to turn off 6 Mile, it's a car at the stop sign and you'll run into it.
Ms.
So-
Crawford, did you get a chance to hear what Mr. Darty indicated what would be done in that area?
Darty, Mr. Darty, the engineer.
Yes, ma'am.
I did hear he said he's gonna do curves, but is he gonna also look at this sidewalk, which is heaved and now is spilling back to my building? Because if you put a curb in, now all that water is gonna run back on the building. It's not gonna do what the natural, how the design is supposed to work from what I'm hearing. It's not supposed to run to the property. It's either gonna be absorbed by the berm and then run to the drain, the sewer. But the way it is now, that's not gonna happen. And once a curve goes in, if some other corrections aren't made.
Okay, well, Mr. Darty, if you don't mind just kind of walking through again, just to make sure that everyone is clear on what is anticipated with this particular project. And I'm sure we don't have a problem with coming out and doing a survey to determine any other issues that they may have for that area.
Yeah, when we do any road improvements, we look at the adjoining sidewalks and that. Any tree guarantee related sidewalk work, we will roll into our work.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, how a road system should function, from the building across the sidewalk over the berm, the curb should be set below the top of the sidewalk and that, so that water can go across the berm area, sheet flow over the curb and into the gutter and get to the catch basins out in there.
Okay. Okay, well,
If we do our design, we will definitely
those trees
contemplate those things.
have such an abundance of leaves, and then they're now overhanging my building. I've been trying to contact the city and make way with this, but I haven't gotten any real response. As you see that pond, that large erosion right there, that big pond of water,
Yeah.
that is, I'm sure you've seen it. It's really horrific.
Yep,
And-
that's, we're gonna be blowing, we're gonna be taking that all out and putting
Okay.
new concrete in there.
Well, I'm excited about it because of the fact that, of course, cars run up and run into the building, and you come home, you come back the next day, and you're like, what happened here? But the neighbor that you were talking about with the cars, Councilman Tate,
Yes, ma'am.
that is a volatile corner. They party a lot on that corner. They will not park in their garage, which is off the alley, and
So-
it's also a
Well, Ms. Crawford, what we can do, let's talk offline. If there's
okay.
Yeah, let's-
All right. Thank you for your time. I
No,
appreciate it.
well, we want to make sure we do talk offline though. So please.
I
so
would love.
Lynn-
I will. Okay.
Lynn McNeil, who's the community relations individual in my office. Lynn, can you please give your phone number out, your cell number? He's on the call as well.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Mr.
And
McNeil.
my phone number is 313
Uh-huh.
401 0243. And I'll repeat that, 313 401 0243.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So
That's great. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
and that is my cell. Can you please give me a call or send me a text message, and I will talk to you and we'll get all your information.
Wonderful. Can I make a
All right,
comment
thank you,
about
Ms.
that curb situation? Even though I'm not a resident I'm not a residential resident.
Sure.
There is a lot of speculative doubt with me. It sounds like a great idea. I can understand. And I see in the suburbs where they put signs up, you can only park on this side of the street at a certain time. But my experience has been like trash day. You'll have people park and here comes the garbage truck or whatever. And the garbage truck can't even get down the street because there is no room. So it would be nice to canvas and make people aware, as Deborah Bradley said, because you need to have everybody on the same page. There are a few complications, and I'll talk to you, Mr. McNeil, about my what I've seen in just, I go down Huntington all day long. Some of the things that you might want to consider. And even if we had boxes or something, maybe where you could drop off, if people, they could go to there and maybe you could take a survey out, like you do a flyer, and then maybe you could fill it out and say, if you drop it in the box or take it to the community house, somehow you might be able to get some more people involved that you may not be able to knock on the door and talk to.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. We will definitely be in touch.
All right.
Is there anyone else who from the community who's watching tonight that would like to ask a question or have comments or concerns? This is your time.
Mr. Crawford has re-raised his hand.
Okay, Mr. Crawford.
Is he, Marlo? No, that's my husband. He's gone now. I don't think he has another issue.
Yeah, I think that was Miss Crawford still.
Oh,
Yeah, that was me. Okay.
thank you.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. All right. Well, we want to thank all who did show up this evening. As mentioned, we are planning to identify the best way to get the feedback and the input from the residents, though we do have $400,000 that is in the coffers at this moment to do the curbs and the reconstruction down at least by the McNichols entrance. It's not a done deal yet because we want to make sure that the residents who live on the 2 blocks are supportive of it. And so going to be looking to you, all to provide us with the best way that we can get that feedback, because the worst thing you can have is that something happens in your neighborhood, you wake up the next day and you see that it's happening and you don't feel like you've been engaged. This is an opportunity, but we're going to look for additional opportunities to do so. We got a little time, not a lot, maybe a couple of weeks tops before we've got to get this thing moving, whether we're going to do it or not. So I'm going to stay engaged. If anyone has any question, you heard Lynn's phone number, but you can always call the entire office, my office. I'm always willing to speak with you as well at 313-224-1027. Again, that is 313-224-1027. All right. And Deputy Director, you want to any final words you want to provide, and or your team, DPW, anything you want to add before we wrap up? And again, thank you all, as well as Ms. Patel, for being here, walking folks through this particular process.
Well, thank you, Council President Pro Tem. I wanted to make sure that we appreciate the neighborhood and the residents for taking their time to talk to us today, for giving us all this input. This is one of the highlights of our project, so we can get our job design to the satisfaction or to the expectation, and we can incorporate the expectation of the resident into the design. So we really appreciate this, and we're looking forward to making a quick work out of this as soon as the weather breaks and we get into mid-construction. So thank you very much for your time and for the comments you've given us today. Rich, is there anything else you want to say?
No, I did too much talking, so I'm good.
Rich is a man of few words. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You all have a great rest of your evening. Ms. Patel, with anything?
I'm set. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all again, and we will certainly be in touch as we as this project progresses. Y'all have a great evening. Be safe and be well. Take care.
Thank you for your time. Good
Thank
night.
you, everybody.
Bye-bye.